This video is for the students who are thinking of selecting law as a subject for their international advanced level Edexcel examinations. And by the end of this video, you'll get an understanding as to what the syllabus consists of and how you're going to be assessed on this subject. So it will help you to make an informed decision as to whether you're going to follow law for your advanced level exam. So what I'm sharing on the screen is the teacher's guide for International Advanced Level Law Edexcel syllabus. And this will help you to get a good idea about what is the syllabus and how you're going to be assessed. So I'll take you through the important points in this teacher's guide. So first of all, let us look at the specification overviews. So basically, for the advanced level examination, you have two papers. Paper 1 on underlying principles of law and the English legal system, and paper 2 on the law in action. And remember, law is a linear subject, which means you're not going to have an exam for advanced subsidiary level as in the other subjects. So you'll have to study for 2 years continuously and then face the final exam, that is your advanced level exam. So there is only one exam, no AS exam for law. So you have to write both paper 1 and paper 2 at the end of 2 years. So paper 1, underlying principles of law and English legal system, basically talks about the nature, purpose, and liability in law, and the sources of English law, its enforcement and administration. So this covers a long list of topics, which I will explain later on in the video. And under law in action, that's where you're going to learn the substantive law, or what is the law. And the teacher's guide separates it into three main areas: the market, criminal offender, and the individual. Market refers to the contract law. Criminal offender is the criminal law, and the individual includes human rights law and law of tort. So these are generally what the two papers cover. Let's look at this in detail later on. So for now, you need to know that there are two papers which you have to write at the end of the 2 years, and both papers carry 100 marks, which means paper 1, the total mark is 100. Paper 2, the total mark is 100. And it will weigh 50%. Each paper will weigh 50% of the total advanced level examination marks. So your final mark is going to be a combination of these 2 marks you get for the 2 papers. And both the papers are for 3 hours each, and both are written examinations. So you will get a gap between the 2 papers, maybe a few days gap. Anyway, remember, there is no AS exam. I keep repeating because this is a question that the students always come up with. Why there is no paper after 1 year as in other subjects? It's because the subject law is considered as a linear subject, which you have to learn for 2 years and then write the examination. So that is the specification overview and the assessment overview. And let's move on to see the structure of the paper. So the first paper, as I mentioned earlier, will be for a total of 100 marks, and the time allowed is 3 hours. You will get 5 questions, and the first 4 questions will be for 20 marks, but each question will have different parts. As in the first question will have 3 parts: part A, part B, and part C. And like that, the first 4 questions will be divided into parts, the total of which would be 20 marks. So you're expected to write short to medium responses. And it's the 5th question, which is an extended answer which is required, because that's going to be just one question. It's not divided into parts. So you're expected to write somewhat lengthy answer for the 5th question. So the second paper also has a similar structure. Again, the total mark is 100 and the time allowed is 3 hours. Just like the paper 1, questions 1 to 4 will carry subparts like part A, B, and C. So the marks are divided, the total of which for each question would be 20 marks. And the last question will be a 20 marker. And most probably it's going to be a problem type question where you are expected to write an extended answer. So this is also very important, the command words. If you look at the past papers, and also when I mention past papers, please remember you have to only look at past papers from 2017 onwards, because in 2017 the syllabus changed. So if you're referring to past papers, only refer to the papers after 2017. So in the past papers, you will observe that the questions are using different command words like give, describe, explain, assess, evaluate, likewise. So according to the command word given, you have to decide what your answer is going to be. I mean, the structure of the answer should depend on the command word used in the question. So if it's just give or state, you can just write a point-based answer, a one-step answer, no need to explain in detail. But if it says describe, you should give a short answer, but you have to give an account of the answer, not just a point-based answer, a little bit explanation. And if it says explain, then you have to show your understanding of the law, and you have to use authority, means the case laws, acts of parliament. So you're expected to expand your answer a little bit when it says explain. And if the question says to analyze, there you have to give an extended answer. You have to examine in detail, break down into individual components methodically, identify relationships between separate elements, and finally, there is no need for a conclusion. You don't have to give a conclusion, you just have to give an extended answer and examine the facts or the law in detail. And next, if you get a question with the command word assess, again, you have to give an extended answer. This will most probably be on one specified area, which I have to explain in detail. Again, there is no need of an overall conclusion. So the conclusion is required only if the question starts with the command word evaluate. So whenever you get evaluate, you have to reach at a conclusion and also an extended answer. You have to identify and analyze the relevant areas of law which may not have been given and review information and draw on evidence. So this basically you get for 20 markers as in the last question, or even for 14 markers, you can get questions starting with the word evaluate, where you are expected to arrive at a conclusion. So let's look at the topics that are covered under the syllabus of paper 1. So as I said earlier, paper 1 is about the underlying principles of law and the English legal system. So firstly, you have to learn about the difference between rules and laws. So you have to learn the characteristics of rules, the laws, what are their differences. You'll have to learn that. And afterwards, about the legal personality, what is meant by a legal personality and who has a legal personality. You're going to learn under that. And next, about the liability in civil law. So you're going to learn about different types of civil law, like law of tort, family law, employment law. Very briefly, you just have to know what these laws are and the different remedies available, such as injunctions, specific performance, damages, rescission, and rectification. And thereafter, you should know the sanctions in criminal law. That means if any person is convicted of a criminal offense, what are the punishments that he can get, whether it's prison sentences, suspended sentence, community service, and many more. And thereafter, you have to learn the relationship between civil law and criminal law, and also public and private law. We have to learn the different types of laws. And the next area is theories of punishments, where you have to learn several types of theories, such as retribution, deterrence, denunciation, reparation, and restoration. So you have to learn what these theories are, what are their advantages and disadvantages, along with some practical examples. And next area is the legal theories, under which you have to learn three main types of theories: legal positivism, natural law, and utilitarianism. And afterwards, another interesting area, that is the difference between law and morality. So here you have to learn about the relationship between law and morality and the different ideologies or the debates that have been there from the ancient times regarding whether law should reflect morality or not. So the main focus here would be the heart deviling debate, under which you have to learn some case laws and interpret the decisions or the judicial decisions of different cases to see whether laws reflect morality. And next, you have to learn the difference between public and private morality. Here again, you will have to learn a lot of case laws, which is quite interesting. And the next part is the creation of an act of parliament, where you have to learn about the parliamentary process of making a bill into a act of parliament. Up until the king gives the assent to a bill, it is known as a bill. Afterwards, only it's referred to as an act of parliament. So you have to learn this process in detail with the different steps followed inside the House of Commons and the House of Lords. The next topic is on influence on law reform. So here you have to learn several factors that influence law reform, such as media, pressure groups, political parties, so on. And next, we have the judicial interpretation of statutes. Under this, again, you have to learn four different rules of statutory interpretation. And next, we have delegated legislation. So here again, you have to learn three types of delegated legislation, the advantages and disadvantages. Another important area is judicial precedent. This is where you have to learn how the decisions given by superior courts or the higher courts bind the courts which are inferior. And next, you have to discuss the role of equity in developing the remedies in civil law. So some of the remedies that I mentioned earlier, like injunctions, specific performance, rescission, those are equitable remedies. So here we are going to learn about how these remedies have been developed in the courts of equity. And next, another major area is the European Union law. As you all know that UK is not a part of the European Union anymore. They left it in 2020, but still your syllabus was formed in 2017. So this topic is still there in the syllabus. So here you have to learn the different sources of European Union law and how it has affected UK. And you may have to answer a question such as, what are the effects of leaving the EU? What happened after Brexit in 2020? What are the advantages and the disadvantages? Or was UK able to get back its lost parliamentary sovereignty by leaving the EU? So such types of questions you may have to answer now under this topic. And moving on, next area is a little bit lengthy, civil dispute resolution. So you have to know what are the methods available if you have a civil dispute, how to resolve such a dispute. So basically we have the courts, so you have to learn the court system. And apart from courts, we have public tribunals and the alternative dispute resolution mechanisms such as arbitration, mediation, conciliation, negotiation, and also we have ombudsman. So those are the areas that we have to cover under civil dispute resolution. And thereafter we have the role of judges. So you should know who are the different types of judges in the court hierarchy, both civil and criminal court hierarchy in UK, how the judges are appointed, what are the qualifications required, what is the training given to them. So that will be discussed under the lesson of judges. And next we have the legal profession. So you may know that UK has two separate legal professions, namely the solicitors and the barristers. And in addition, we have legal executives as well. So you're going to learn the different roles of these two professions and how you can become a solicitor, how to become a barrister, and also about the ongoing debate as to whether these two professions should be fused or should they be kept separate. So you have to comment on that as well. And next we have lay people in law. So lay people refers to people who are not experts in law, but they are just ordinary people who are used in the English legal system for the roles of magistrates and jurors. So you have to learn the role of the magistrates as well as jurors in a jury panel in the Crown Court. And the final two lessons are on the cost of taking legal actions and funding available when going to law. We learn the different types of costs that could incur if you're taking a case to courts, and if you do not have the sufficient financial means to take a case to courts, what are the different methods of funding available? That's what you're going to learn in the last lesson. So that is all what is covered under paper 1. It's quite lengthy, but I think it lays a great foundation for you if you are planning to study law further in your higher studies. So that is what paper 1 is all about. Let's now move into paper 2. So under paper 2, firstly, we have contract law, under which you have to learn the formation of a valid contract. There are 5 main elements that you have to satisfy, namely offer, acceptance, consideration, legal intention, and capacity. So you have to learn about each of these factors in detail. And next, you have to learn about the terms in a contract. What are the different types of terms like express, implied, conditions, warranties, and you have to learn about the Consumer Rights Act. These two acts given here, the Sales of Goods Act and the Supply of Goods and Services Act, those two were amended by the Consumer Rights Act. So the act that applies now is the Consumer Rights Act. So you have to learn about that as well. And next, you have to learn about the validity of contracts and the factors which would affect the validity of a contract, such as misrepresentation and mistake. And finally, we have the different methods of discharging a contract by performance, by agreement, by breach, and by frustration. And lastly, privity of contract. It's a principle followed in contract law, and there are some exceptions to this principle. So that's a small area which comes in the last part of contract law. So that's all for contract law. And secondly, we have law of tort. The main area covered here is negligence, and you have a lot of case laws for law of tort. And after negligence, you have areas like Occupier's liability, trespass to land, defamation, Consumer Protection Act of 1987. So under that comes product liability. And finally, the remedies that you can take under law of tort. And the third area is human rights law. Again, some selected rights will be discussed under this topic. So firstly, you have a right to freedom of speech or expression, and the freedom of information, freedom of assembly, right to privacy. So those are the main areas that will be covered under human rights, and also the effect on the government if there is a successful appeal to the European Court of Human Rights on any violation of human rights. And that appeal process also you should learn under human rights law. And moving on under criminal law, which is the last area for the paper 2, you have to learn the basic principles of criminal law like actus reus, mens rea, causation, and the liability for omissions. And after that, we have several property offenses such as theft, robbery, burglary, and blackmail, followed by fraud. Fraud also, there are two sections, section 2 and section 11. And making off without payment, it's offense under the Theft Act 1978. And finally, criminal damage. Those are the offenses that you're going to learn. And some general defenses like intoxication, duress also will come under criminal law. And the final lesson will be on sanctions and sentencing. So under that, you're mainly going to learn about the custodial sentence, community sentences, fines and discharge. So that's basically what paper 2 consists of. 4 main areas and many subtopics are there under each area. So that's all for paper 1 and paper 2. That's what the syllabus is. If you have further questions, please comment. And I also want to inform those who have stayed to the end of this video. I am conducting classes for International Advanced Level Law Edexcel syllabus. If you want to join, the link is down in the description box. Please fill that form, the Google form that I have attached in the description box, and register the classes if you want to follow this syllabus with me. Thank you.